To introduce my good friend Ed Fye, a member of our Athletic Hall of Fame. He was inducted in 2000. He's our head track and field coach here at Doane, who's won the GPAC Track Coach of the Year so many times, I don't even know how many times it is. A lot. Ed will share a few thoughts about one of his former athletes. We're delighted to have Curtis Hawkins here tonight. Ed is going to share about Curtis, and then you'll meet Curtis Hawkins in just a few moments. Ed.
Thank you, and congratulations to all the inductees tonight. I'm honored to be up here to talk to Curtis and Wendy tonight and represent them. I'm also excited about the women's basketball team. I think the track and field program had a lot to do with your success. I mean, how else could you overcome adversity when you have guns going off, hurdles rattling, shot puts getting thrown at you? At the same time, you're playing basketball and we're trying to run track. But it didn't always work out the best, but we made the best of what we had. So you're welcome. I know that these two people would love to have had Coach Biley introducing them tonight, but I got three things that I'm going to talk about tonight. Curtis Lee Hawkins found his way to Doane through his friend. Brian Elliott was a kid that went to Mount Sac from Colorado, came to Doane, ended up being a national champion for us, which told me about Day Lyric Herrera, which told me about Curtis Hawkins, which told me about Joe Pryor. So through that process, they all ended up staying here, becoming great friends. To this day, they call me at Christmas. They stay in contact. They've sent numerous family members to Doane. So I would like those guys to stand up and give them a hand for being here and helping. This group over here brought a different culture to Crete, Nebraska. And we also, in turn, gave them a great culture from Nebraska. So thank you guys for bringing an old hurdler and football player to Doane. Curtis's journey was a different journey. He graduated from high school, really never thought about going to college. He ended up spending 7 years in the military, and I would love for you guys to give him a hand for serving for the... Once on campus, Curtis and the boys took a little while for them to adjust, but they were fast learners and adjusted fast. Like I said, Curtis really wasn't looking for an opportunity to go to college, never saved money. Doane gave him a great opportunity to go to get college because of his friends. He got here, didn't have really a place to stay, so he moved in with me. He became a starter on the football team that ended up going 12-0, undefeated, and we played Paker in the first round of the championships. Went on to become a great hurdler, one of the hardest workers, one of the best, greatest competitors that we had ever had at Doane in the hurdles. He was very analytical. Him and Fred worked hand in hand. I remember him in the office talking about technique, what's going to work. Fred, if you were a competitor, he would spend as much time as he could with you. Some memories that I have of Curtis, by the time he was a senior, he became one of the best hurdlers in the nation at any level. Curtis went to the Drake Relays, ran and made the finals of the Drake Relays, placed in those relays against all divisions. We also helped us make it to the finals of the shuttle hurdle relay at the Drake Relays, where we had 3 corn-fed guys and Curtis getting ready to run against Notre Dame, Iowa State, and Michigan, and Doane. So there's only 4 because there's shuttle hurdle, so you go back and forth. And we're pretty excited because we ran pretty well, and we were excited about that competition. The gun went off, and the next thing I know, the stadium almost had to clear because there was so much smoke from Fred Biley smoking his pipe from underneath the stadium because he was so embarrassed. We ran the first leg, and John Heckin Lively ran a great leg. We're in the race. The next guy gets the baton, 5 steps, jumps, 5 steps, jumps, 5 steps. You're only supposed to take 3. He runs the whole race like that. He was warming up and blew his hamstring before he ran and couldn't run, but he wasn't not going to run. So it was a great memory, but it didn't end up turn out like the way we wanted it. But it was a great memory just to be in the lanes against those people. Curtis went on to win indoor and outdoor national championships in the same year, working with Fred and setting goals and going after those type of things. Curtis not only lived with me, became a great friend of mine and my family, and growing up in my family is not easy. Curtis became so special that we thought of him at Christmas time when they said all I want for Christmas is my 2 front teeth, because if you ever knew Curtis, didn't have front teeth when he came here. So we bought him those 2 front teeth for Christmas. His dog ate them, and he was out in the backyard looking for them. I don't know if he found them or what he did with them, but I think we got new ones. Curtis went on to be very close to the track team, very analytical, had the great opportunity to go on track camps with us to Baird in western Nebraska. He was also lucky enough to go to Juanita, Nebraska and hang out with us. And Curtis knows one thing: there's a lot of things you can learn in Juanita, but what goes on in Juanita stays in Juanita, right? So tonight I introduce to you 2 people that Fred thought was 2 of the greatest competitors in the history of Doane College. They always find a way to train and compete at the highest level and then reap those rewards of success because of the hard training. These 2 are the people that Fred felt like embodied track and field at Doane. You draw a line in the dirt and you race. We may not have been the best hurdlers every day or the best runners, but that day, because of the hard work and the training, these 2 became one of the best athletes and the greatest competitors in Doane history. And because of that, I introduce to you Curtis Lee Hawkins.
Ed. You guys, I'll have Curtis hold that. Rick's going to get a quick picture of you 2.
Well, I think Ed pretty much summed it up. Took a lot of my fire. I thought I had some good stories. The story of how I got here, Day Lyric called me after I got off active duty as I'm working construction, building houses. He goes, "Curtis, can you still run?" I said, "Yeah, I think I can, but I haven't had to in a while." He goes, "I'll have Ed call you in 5 minutes." 4 days later, I was walking on the Doane campus. One thing that amazed me about the Midwest, coming from Los Angeles, the gratitude, the want to help and assist someone. I show up on campus, I had nothing. I didn't have a room to stay in. I didn't have a phone card, for those of us who know what they were, to even call anybody to let them know I made it safe. Numerous students at the time gave me a bunk for the night and a phone card to use. The coaches were great, brought me in, got my classes going. I had the GI Bill. But that's pretty much how I made it to Doane. But I came at a crossroads. After a year and a half, I broke my foot playing football. And like Ed said, I never intended to come to school for the education. The education was just going to be a bonus to me running track. I had my car packed and ready to head up the highway via I-80 and back west. And Ed sat me down, and Dr. Brown sat me down. I spoke to Coach Hood, Doane, Marty, and I had a baby on the way. I had responsibilities. They helped me understand an education was going to be better served for my daughter by staying. 4 years later, all the fun, the stories, the track camps, the pizza and jalapeno eating contests. Yeah, you remember. It's a snapshot in my life, but it was something I will never, ever forget. It helped me become who I am. Out of Los Angeles, rural router, jean wearing, cowboy boot toting. I'd still do it to this day. My wife, Wendy, asked me what I was going to wear. I said, jeans, my boots. She goes, yeah, you can't do that. I said, so I don't think I can squeeze into anything else. But I did. But yes, my wife, Wendy, here, married 15 years. I have my cousin, Joe from California, Day Lyric, of course, who got me here. And I have two couples that are basically my Missouri friends that I've known for well over 15 years, and the LaFoon family and the Staples family. I'm sure I can continue going on and on and on. It really hurt not to make it here for Fred's service. But I knew I would be here and see everyone. There was one story, well, I'm sure there's many, but there's one story that I remember. And it's about always giving 100% and never quitting and easing up. Fred used to always tell me, which I'm sure he told others, get off the last hurdle, the last 10 meters, the last little bit of that race, never slow down, always run through the line. I'm running at the University of Nebraska. It's a prelim for nationals. I come off the last hurdle, indoor, and I can't see anybody in my peripheral. And of course, I eased up. Ran through the line, looked at the clock. I was 2/100ths off the national record. And I never came that close again, no matter how hard I tried. But I always remembered him saying that, never ease up, always run through the line. So I'm sure I could ramble on. Again, thank you very much, Ed, Dr. Brown, Hoodie, Dunnigan, Marty, Cody, all of my fellow athletes and students that were here with me. Thank you. Have a good night.
Curtis was an outstanding hurdler here, and I remember I just loved the way he competed when he won indoor nationals. It was in the Doane Center. I remember sprinting toward the finish line and talking to him. I just thought that was so proud of him. He represented Doane so very well. So congratulations, Curtis. Next up, we move on. Chad Samuelson, a 1997 Doane grad, was a teammate of Jared Olson's. Sammy is here tonight. He's going to talk about Jared, and he's ready to go. You come on up here, Sammy. And again, when you're done, you can grab the plaque and we'll get a picture of you two together. Chad Samuelson.
Right, good evening, everyone. I'm honored to be a part of this night for Jared and the other inductees. And I have to admit, I was a bit nervous the first time that when Jared contacted me about the opportunity to introduce him to all of you tonight. But as I learned in my 25 years of friendship and 25 years of being a teammate with Jared, you always need to have confidence that when you're with Jared, you have a chance to do well and succeed. And you have to commit to do your best because you know that he will do his best. And then you know that you're going to have a lot of fun. And those are three real qualities that Jared inspired in me when we first met between our senior year in high school and before coming to Doane. The two of us had the opportunity to play together in the South Dakota Nebraska All-Star game. A small town kid who really had met many people from the big city of Omaha, and Jared was one of my first friends that I was introduced to. We continued that summer, we had a chance to play together again. And it was this pattern of spending time with Jared where I really started learning about these qualities that he instilled in you. The idea of being confident, the idea of showing up and delivering your best. And you always had fun. We got down here to Doane, and if you knew Coach Erickson always scheduled games that we weren't supposed to win. Don't know why. It was definitely his philosophy to make it really tough on us before Christmas. We had a battering of games throughout Missouri where there was not a chance that we were supposed to win that on paper. But every game, ball gets ready to tip off, and when you Jared on the court, you knew you had a chance. We found ourselves in Air Force one year, or each year, right before Christmas, during the holiday. No students were there. The only people in the stands were our family. And we'd play Air Force. Our sophomore year, we got beat. We got beat really bad. Coach pulls us back in the locker room at the time, and he gave somewhat of a somber speech. The speech had something to do with, if you looked around this room and you had to pick out two people that take with you down a dark alley and you knew nothing of what was down that dark alley that you're going to encounter, who would you take? You know, everyone really, they looked around the room, and if you know some of the players on the team, they're fairly sizable. A couple of them are here tonight. Jared leaned over to me and he said, "Sammy, I'm 5'10", 140 pounds, no one's going to pick me." I agreed. But I'll tell you, if you're picking somebody in life, you're going to pick Jared Olson. So you knew that you had the confidence to do well, confidence to succeed, and you knew that he'd be there committed to do the same. You know, I could probably stand up here and tell many stories about what it looked like to take the court. With Jared, overtime games, triple overtime game, and at Midland that felt like it should never end, and dagger after dagger that Jared delivered to Midland and Fremont. Or the night that he dropped 50 on Hastings. I felt like right now he's still scoring on Hastings. It was an unbelievable night. There's someone in the room who may remember that from the other side of the court. But it was one of those things where you knew when Jared showed up, he was going to be at his best. You had to do the same. So I've had the opportunity to experience that for the last 25 years. We played a significant amount of basketball at Doane, as all the athletes in this room competed for those 4 years. We've played a significant amount of basketball after Doane. There's really not many states or cities that we've gone to and played or found a gym or just challenged. It's a Wednesday night and your roommates are going to go up and play 2-on-2. And you knew that night you had to be your best, regardless of who was on your team. But that's what you did with Jared. He inspired that in you. Always has. And it's always been a significant amount of fun of having in your life the way in which he looks at the opportune time to make light of things. We were on a game in Baker University, which is the only time I've ever been to Baker University. Don't care to go back to Baker University. I think we were scheduling them on the way to Central Missouri. I'm not really for sure why we were there. Well, we show up when nobody knew who Baker University was. You know, we're in Crete. And no one knew a scouting report on these guys. So our assistant coach, Coach Marty Dell at the time, goes out and he's watching warm-ups. We know he is watching warm-ups. He comes back into the locker room and he tells us, he's like, "Guys, sit down. I want to tell you a little bit about the team you're going to play." Their point guard, so this is 96, right? Their point guard, he's a 6'1" spot-up shooter. Really good, doesn't try to do much, spot-up shooter. Their four-man is a rebounder. He will rebound the entire game, offense and defense. We've got to keep him off the boards. This is warm-ups he watched. Their three-man, he is a swing man. He can score inside, outside. He's really lanky. He's a good defender. Their 5-man, he's more of just a space taker. He'll set screens. But their 2-guard. Their 2-guard, he's 6'6", inside, outside, likes to post up. He is really incredible. And Jared literally just paused and said, "Coach, it sounds like you just described the Chicago Bulls." I still don't know if we beat Baker that night. But I remember a little bit of levity in the room, in that locker room as we prepared to take the court. But that's what you got with Jared. That's what you continue to get with Jared. Jared finds himself now continue to inspire people as he's a coach. And if you follow his coaching career now at Cal Baptist D2 school in Riverside, you would know that he took a team that was underperforming. But he showed up. He inspired confidence in them. He challenged them to be their best, and they showed up to be their best for him. He took them to back-to-back Final Fours. This is incredible. I feel very fortunate to have spent the last 25 years being his teammate and friend. And I'd like you to join me in welcoming this year's inductee, Jared Olson, to the stage.
Thanks. I have some good friends. Some of them are here. Chris Dahl, who stood up earlier because he was in the Hall of Fame. His real claim to fame, though, is when we'd go on road trips, Coach would pre-order everyone's meal. Everyone would get the exact same meal, besides Chris, who got a special meal. Ryan Race, who played with us at Doane, coached with us at Doane. Mark Madison, who you just told me tonight you are the all-time leader in fouls, which is kind of fun. And Sammy, obviously. My brother Drew, his wife Malie, my dad Rich, who obviously did a lot of work to get me here. Also want to just say it's pretty cool to have the groups of women's basketball teams here, just to see a lot of the faces that I haven't seen in a long time, and just know that I'm with you on that. I spend my whole job is just working with people like you, when you were much younger, but I hope. Yeah, sorry. But I just love what you guys do, and I would just keep encouraging you guys to support each other. That's the number one message I give my team is women's basketball has to support women's basketball. Women have to support women. I don't want to talk all day. Everybody here probably has some Coach Erickson stories, and I just wanted to share one of my favorite ones. My very first game that my parents were going to come watch me play. My dad is a high school girls basketball coach, and so oftentimes they would have games on the same night as us, so they couldn't always come and watch. So Sammy's parents pretty much always kind of subbed in for them most of the time. But the first game that they were coming to watch, I was a freshman. We were playing at Wesleyan, which was, I guess now is not a big rival, but at the time was the team that everybody hated. And it's just weeks of building up where we're gonna play Wesleyan, we're gonna beat Wesleyan, we're gonna beat Wesleyan. And I was from Omaha, and I just thought I could care less about all of these teams that I'd never heard of. I just wasn't familiar with them, and I thought I was kind of too cool from the big city, whatever. But so we're gonna play Wesleyan. It's a big game, and my mom is in a wheelchair, and so her and my dad always kind of have to sit on the floor, and they were kind of positioned right. It's hard to explain. It's a really old gym. Locker room door is right on underneath the basket, and so my mom and dad are sitting on the other side of the door, and so about I would say somewhere in the first 5 minutes of the game, Erickson gets thrown out of the game, and. This happens all the time, but I'm a freshman, I don't know this. My parents, this is their first game, they don't know this. And so Erickson is walking, he's got to go to the locker room, and he's walking to the locker room, and so my mom is sitting there in the wheelchair, and he just taps her on the shoulder, and he says, Don't worry, this happens all the time. And apparently that was how it went. So then we go in, the story's not quite over yet, but that was the punchline. We go into the locker room at halftime, and he says, the guy has only watched probably 3 minutes of the first half. And we're down a couple points. I mean, it's a pretty good game. And he just, at halftime, he proceeds to just basically like go down the line, telling everybody what they need to do better, what we need to do in the second half to win the game. And I'm just like, well, how do you know? And he had said that he had listened to the game on the radio, so he felt comfortable explaining to us what we needed to do, because as he would routinely remind us, he had forgotten more about basketball than any of us would ever know. So that's probably my favorite story of Coach. The reason why I was at Doane was because of Coach Erickson. I really, I learned by making mistakes, and I had no clue what I was going to do for college. I thought I was really good at basketball, and I didn't get any offers from anybody. I had two. I had even taken visits to schools that were terrible, that we ended up beating all the time, like Peru State, Indiana College. They were bad at basketball, and the coaches wouldn't even give me like the JV walk-on spot. Like, honestly, this is an honest story. And it was Doane and Hastings. And I mean, I know Razorshek's here, right? I knew, where's he at? Yeah, I knew that the trader was crazy. And so I didn't want to go to Hastings, but I also didn't know anything about Doane. And Gene Chupan and Coach Erickson had come to my house very late in spring as I was still trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, and those guys just sold my mom on it. And when they sold her, they sold me. And it wasn't like Doane was like this great fit for me, but it really taught me a lot about life, and I left Doane with a degree that I no longer use. It was right. Everybody for 4 years told me about the Doane education system, and the education majors are the world's greatest teachers, and I am someone that has a master's degree in curriculum instruction that has never used it. And I will tell you this though. I learned so much about how to do my job and how to impact other people from Coach Erickson. And that's what you come to school for. You don't come for the piece of paper. You come to have your life changed so you can help change other people's lives. And for me, Doane was great for that. And I just want to thank all of you that, I mean, it's great. There's all these people here that I share this experience with, that, and you know, especially my teammates. I think it was great, and I hope you guys have the same memories. I mean, I know it wasn't always perfect, but to me, like, it was a great place to go so that I could learn about how to be a better person, so that I could make a difference for other people. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
I wanted to take this opportunity to share some additional things about Jared. He shared some great stuff with me by email. I want to do this quickly, but it's great stuff. He wrote, these are Jared's words: "My crowning achievement was playing quarterback and winning the intramural flag football championship during my senior year. At the time, no one could ever remember a team beating the Siggies in flag football." Jared writes, "I think we won 14-13 on a wet field under the lights at Simon Field." Also, talk about family. Jared's wife, Amy, is Susan Roman's sister. Susan graduated from Doane in 2013 as one of the best volleyball players in Doane history, and so we have that part along with it. One other thing I want to share about Jared. We were playing, he mentioned Nebraska Wesleyan. We were playing Nebraska Wesleyan in the Fieldhouse, in Fear Fieldhouse, and they were undefeated in conference play. I think it was the last game of the regular season, so no one had beaten them. But they didn't leave the Fieldhouse undefeated. It was a back and forth game with a lot of tension and excitement, a typical Doane Wesleyan game. I think I even remember Coach Erickson getting worked up during the game. Probably flying sport coat, flying keys, flying chair. But here's one thing I remember about Jared, and I didn't even tell him this, but I remember it. During a Wesleyan inbounds play, Jared stole the ball and scored a layup before most fans knew what happened. I will take credit for being one of the handful of fans who actually saw that play, because I don't think most people saw that even happen. It happened so quickly. And that was just an example of the kind of player Jared was for us. Congratulations, Jared. I'm going to talk about our legendary coaches, Coach Erickson, going back to Coach Biley. A few months ago, Coach Biley stopped by my office, which was a great thing, because the good thing when Fred stopped by, I got to make a new pot of coffee. That was a good thing when Fred stopped by. Whenever Fred talked, I thought, I need to be taking notes here. And so I did. I said, Fred, who are some Doane track and field athletes who are deserving of induction into our Athletic Hall of Fame? He gave me some names, which are still on the whiteboard in my office, and that's a true story. Two of the names are represented here tonight, Curtis Hawkins and Wendy Wortman. At this time, I'll have Ed come back to the podium for his remarks about Wendy.
I don't have quite as many stories about Wendy because she did not live with me. So, Wendy caught my eye when she was a freshman. Osceola came over to our indoor meets, and we host those every year, and we still do host those meets. Little freshman, little blonde, ponytail, orange ribbon in her hair every time she ran. And we were doing a long jump, and she was jumping. Last jump, Wendy was in the lead. The last jumper passed her. Wendy came down, passed her, won the event. The relay came around, Wendy's way down, Wendy passed everybody, won. I saw 4 years, every time that happened, Wendy answered, every single time. And I'm like, man, this girl refuses to lose. What an amazing competitor that she was. So we recruited her, and we were fortunate enough to get her. And when she stepped on campus, obviously, if you know me, she was a multi-eventer immediately. We had her doing so many events, and she was so fast through that first year, and we couldn't keep her in that many events during that time. So that group and her class was pretty special, and in 4 years, I'll be able to tell you what they had accomplished. But with Wendy, this group made it a priority to be good at conference and to win conference. They would get together and figure out how many events, who was switching events, what you could do, because you could go to the conference at that time and just enter whoever you wanted in one event. Wendy only jumped at the conference meet in the long jump, and I think she won it every single year. So she didn't need any practice. We just needed to get her to the meet and make sure she was doing well. But that rolled over not only the conference, and that group of people, it rolled over to the national level. And it's like, hey, we need to see what we can do to win this national championship and give that a run. Wendy was not only one of the greatest competitors we ever had, she was also a great leader. She held everyone to the same standard she set for herself. Her senior year, when she was a captain, Brad tells this story all the time. She was a senior, she was the captain. She goes, can I speak with everybody? Her and Tiff Ferguson, I believe, were the two captains. We said, sure. So they come out of that meeting, and all the freshmen and everybody are crying. I mean, they set it down and wanted them to know the standards of what it took to be on our team. And it was a little bit too much, I think, at that time. So Brad went in and counseled them and got everybody on the same page. She was also a team member that went out looking to find things in other people and finding more ways in order to score more points. In one particular case, she came up to me and said, "Hey, I got this girl. We're going to get her out for track. I think she's a great athlete. She's playing basketball right now, but we'll get her out." And I go, "Well, who is it?" And she told me, "She didn't even go out for track her senior year in high school." I go, "Well, I'll think about it." So we thought about it. We let her come out for track. And a month and a half later, because she was training multis at that time, so we let her do multis and with her, and they had to throw the javelin. And anyway, this girl went on a month and a half later to win the national championship in the javelin. Nicole Stellick was her name. And so here she impacted another athlete on campus, and they both went on to win national championships together. Wendy will always be remembered by her teammates and her coaches for our first national championship, with her being behind by 20 meters at the handoff. Everybody knew what was on the line. We had to beat the girl from Parks. She got the baton down 20 meters. In the first 300 meters, we didn't close the gap much. We got it closed down 50 meters. She started coming on this girl a little bit. We got 10 meters. It didn't look good. Wendy kept going, but she was never a quitter. Like Curtis said, you're taught to go all the way through the line. And Wendy kept pushing and pushing. And then all the excitement, we get to the end, we get across the finish line, and you sit there and I'm like, the thing that happened here was that everybody else in here forgot to tell Wendy she wasn't supposed to do this. Wendy was an amazing competitor, one of the best competitors that we ever had at Doane. And Fred, as Cody said, that's one of the reasons that she's being inducted into this. If at any time during that race, Wendy would have given up, 1/10 of a second, we wouldn't be waiting at the finish line to find out if we had won a national championship, and the first national championship ever. We waited 5 minutes. We waited 10 minutes. And we kept waiting. And we found out that we had won by I'm going to let Wendy tell you what she ended up winning by. We went back-to-back national championships in the time that she was here. But I know Wendy, and what I'm about to tell you probably means as much to her as did the national champion. Fred always said that Wendy Brulette was one of the greatest competitors he ever coached or watched. He thought so much of Wendy that he kept a picture of them on his desk. At the funeral, I told Wendy that what I just had told you about her, and the greatest accomplishment that he had ever coached was her, and that she needed to go into the office and pick that picture up. I left the door open for her, and I went in, and the picture was gone. And I introduced to you one of the greatest competitors we've ever had in the history of Doane College, Wendy Brulette.
I have a prepared speech. I can't just get up here and wing this, so I apologize. I did not realize Esther and Jan were going to be here today. I just want to say thank you for sharing your husband and your father all these years coaching our track and field. It means a lot to me. So he was just made a huge impact on my life. So thank you. Thank you to Doane University for hosting this event, for Cody Vance for all the communications, the selection committee for approving my nomination, and to Ed Fi for presenting. I appreciate the kind words. I stand here today accepting this honor because of the outstanding coaching staff at Doane. They're all still coaching today. As Ed had mentioned, I had the opportunity of working with all of them, being a multi-eventer. And mostly my teammates. Our coaches are exceptional. They have tons of knowledge and experience to share. Their passion for track and field is contagious. And I had the opportunity, like I said, to work with all of them, and they've just made a huge impact on my track career. My thoughts are with Fred today, as I would have loved to have received this award from him. And it does sadden me that I can't personally thank him for everything that he did for me. Fred is a legend in our track and field community, and I'm grateful to him for providing me the opportunity to run at Doane. And I tried to take advantage of that opportunity, and I did run every race for Fred. I'm grateful that my path also crossed with all of my teammates. We held each other accountable at every practice and supported each other at every track meet. Our track program is built on tradition, and our slogan is that tradition never graduates. I have to thank all of those that have gone before me, and I hope that I have provided an example for all those who are yet to come through this program. My mom is here today, my sister and her husband, actually everybody at this whole table. Mom, you're an amazing person, and you've always been here for me, and I thank you. This wouldn't have been possible without you. My husband and my 3 kids are here. Craig, thank you for choosing me to be your partner in life and inviting me to be a part of your amazing family and allowing me to continue with my passion in track and field. I appreciate that. My father and mother-in-law are here, all of my friends. Kiter, Aniston, and Bryant, you're my reason to get up every day and to be the best person I can be. At some point, I hope you remember this night and that I've made you proud. And for all of my friends who I consider all my family, I was lucky enough to be a part of a wonderful track family many years ago, and who would have thought I would have found a second team. Thank you for being with me, your friendship, and being role models to my children. And I guess just in closing, Doane has always been a big part of my life. I really wasn't expected to go to college, I guess. I was the first one in my family to go to college and to graduate, and just to have a coaching staff believe in me and see the talent that I had that I couldn't see within myself and draw that out. I was competitive and I just didn't know how to focus that energy, and they really helped me to figure out what I was good at, and I liked winning. So when Ed said that I ran that girl down at Park, I did. I focused in on her, and I was like, you know what? If we have to win, you know, something in me just made me want to run and just wanted to beat her. So that's just how we are at Doane. And thank you for this recognition. I appreciate it.
I want to expand on that thought just for a moment. I would like to share some words from the 2012 Athletic Hall of Fame program when the 2001 and 2002 NAI Women's Outdoor Track and Field National Championship teams were inducted in this room into our Athletic Hall of Fame. And I just read these 2 paragraphs and I thought, you know, I know they're going to be referred to, but I'm going to read what was in that program because it gives a really great version of what happened that day in Canada. And I quote, "Coaches name one moment that captured their determination and freeze-framed their success. The first national title came down to the 4x400 meter relay, the last race of the day in Abbotsford, British Columbia. Doane had the slowest qualifying time and needed to finish 7th for a shot at the championship. Anchor Wendy Brulliette lagged 20 meters behind in 8th place. When her hand closed around the baton, she sprinted around the track as though first place was in reach. The 7th place team runner led up when she realized her team could not medal. Wendy did not, crossing the line in a photo finish that would be decided by 1/100th of a second. Teammates and coaches waited for the results, erupting in emotion and jubilation at the announcement of the 7th place relay finish and a share of the national championship. Doane was a national championship team. Congratulations to Doane Track for that. Wendy, thanks for all of your good work. We move back to basketball. Gene Steinmeier coached women's basketball at Doane for 15 years, and he was inducted into our Athletic Hall of Fame in 2009. He coached the 3 teams that are being honored here tonight. So without further ado, I welcome Gene to the podium, and you'll have a chance to meet our final 4 teams back to back to back. Coach Steinmeier.
Well, there's a couple of things that I want to, that I didn't write down for the speech. I want to kind of clear up first. First of all, to Esther Biley. Esther, I want you to know that every day that I knew Fred, I reminded him how much he had outpunted his coverage when it came to marriage. Second of all, this is for Jared, but you said Coach Erickson won over your mother. Yeah, that's true. Now, for the people that don't know, Stephen Hawking just passed away, and he had Lou Gehrig's disease, that your mother's illness that she survived for years and years. When Coach Erickson got back from your house, he said the most amazing thing happened. He said, I was given the Doane spiel, and there was Jared and his dad, and all of a sudden, Jared's dad said, wait a minute, Jared's mother has a question. And they looked at each other, and there was the question. And she communicated, even though she wasn't able to move a muscle, and everybody knows that in Lou Gehrig's disease, it doesn't affect your mind, but the way she communicated, and she won Coach Erickson over that night. So I thought you might like to hear that. Something else I brought a couple guests along. Could you guys stand up over there? Now, my son Sam, you probably can't tell him because, right? Yeah, he graduates from high school this year, and he's going to major in something with sports. I can't imagine why. And then Jacob, my grandson over there, he's a sophomore at Wayne State. He's majoring in middle school math, which I was a middle school math teacher. Boy, did I teach him wrong. They had the function we had here, the banquet, they've had the speeches, and now afterwards I hear we're going to have a get-together, and I figured that was as much as they could take, so I rented a car so they could drive back to the hotel tonight. And trust me, they're really looking forward to that drive home. When I had the privilege of being inducted, and in 2009, Suzanne Weeder was the other inductee, and they let me go first. And after I got done, Suzanne got up to the podium and said, I got to follow that. And Cody, you're smart, you put me last, and whatever, that was an inspiration, Cody. I'm going to tell you a couple differences. I've had to talk, starting with Trudy Berryhusen's induction, I've had to speak, and I have put my speech on note cards. And this year, it's on sheets of paper with 20 font. The second thing is, and I have a terrible admission to make. First of all, Fred Brown, and I have, every time I speak, I sing the praises of Fred Brown, and I truly, truly mean them. Fred Brown, this would not be happening tonight without Fred Brown. But let me tell you how it came about. Fred Brown called me in his office one day, and he said, I want to make you the assistant athletic director. And I said, geez, Fred, I'm honored. And he said, you have 3 functions. Number 1, you have to be the go-between between Pappy Curry and Bob Erickson. And I said, why? And I said, they hate each other. Said, number 2, you got to go to all the NEI meetings, all the conference meetings, any meeting you got to go to. And I said, well, I will, Fred, but why? He said, Bob hates meetings. And he said, 3rd, you have to create a Hall of Fame. I go, great, that sounded kind of like fun. And so I threw a few rules together, and thank goodness they got refined a little bit, a lot, because I didn't even have teams in that Hall of Fame thing. And so anyway, I got my contract that year. Now I'm the women's basketball coach, and I am the new assistant athletic director at Doane College, Doane University now. And I am so excited, and I got my 2% cost of living raise. So I go, Dr. Brown, I said, you gave me all this responsibility. Don't I get a raise? So I got $1,500 for it. So, but Dr. Brown, you are still the best boss I have ever had. So for that, I appreciate it. Jill McCartney, I have great respect for. I knew her when she was at Washburn. And you see, I was the athletic director for a year. And I just want to point out that Bob Erickson yelled at me. Fred Biley yelled at me. Fran Swank yelled at me because he found out his budget was smaller than Cindy Meyer's volleyball budget. And Cindy Meyer yelled at me because somehow Fran Swank found out about her budget. And that was just the first week. So I have a great respect for your job, I really do. Cody, without you, I don't know what this institution would do without you. I do want to point out how every phone call starts whenever Cody calls me. He either says, Stein, I have some bad news, and he tells me somebody's passed away, or instantly he'll say, Stein, this is Cody and nobody died. And that's how our conversations start. So with that, I do have one horrible admission to make. I don't know if I've ever admitted this to anyone, but that first Hall of Fame, there was 11 inductees. We had it downstairs here. We had a podium, and all 11 inductees were up here, and I was up here. I think Fred Brown was up here. Well, I had to go to the bathroom beforehand. I had to rush. And I got down, I sat down, I crossed my legs, and to my horror, my zipper was down. And it's a true story. So I'm sitting there looking out over all these people, wonder how I can pull up my zipper with no one noticing. Oh, I have nightmares about that. So before I get up at the Hall of Fame anymore, I check. Well, just to show you how times have changed, when I checked back in whatever it was, 2000 or whatever that was, the first Hall of Fame, I noticed right away my zipper was open. Tonight when I checked, I couldn't see my zipper. Now you know, all my dirty laundry is out there. Something else before I get started with the teams, and the last thing I want to say is I'm almost, as the 3 teams I'm so proud of, but also the people that came before them, I'm just as proud of, and a lot of them showed up tonight. And if you think it was easy to come tonight while teams that are being honored that you didn't play on, but you know, and they know, they were a big part in building it. And so, and now forgive me because, you know, I'll use first names, or I don't know your married names, you know. Not that your husbands are irrelevant, not that. But over here with Aaron, Gina, and Kim, who helped coach too. You guys stand up, please. And I know Carrie's out there somewhere. Carrie, where are you at? Now, if I did forget somebody, please stop me now and chew me out and stand up, will you? I hope I caught them all. But there's a big, big difference. You know, people say there's a difference in Doane. And, you know, up here it's easy to say that and everybody, but there is. And not only were these guys players for me, but they've turned out to be my best friends in life. And that's very unusual. I don't know if I could say that with my Northwest athletes. I love my Northwest athletes, but I don't know if I can say that. Coaches too, Denny Nelson there, who came in as a volunteer and then conned Pappy Curry into giving him some money. So, you know, and Tracy, who was on one of the teams, now the Doane coach, took over, and again, Fred Brown had to con her into it, but she took the job and it's still hers today. But anyway, I want to start out with, could Mari and Tracy come up here first, please? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to call the captains of each team up. I hope I get the captains right, because not only couldn't I see my zipper, but my memory's fading on me. In the year before this Final Four team, Gina, her father, and Tracy's father, we had won our first game pretty easily, and we were supposed to play Bethany in the second round, and it was one of those back-to-back things in the NEI tournament's famous for. And I'm in the room breaking down film, and back then it was 2 VCRs, and you know, had to do all that. And forgive me, and Bob's not here, is he? Bob's not here, right? Okay, well, I wish he was. They show up with a half bottle of Jack Daniels at about 2 in the morning. And they come in the room, want to know what I'm doing. Well, I'm breaking down film. Now, Denny's breaking down film with me too, but he had taken that moment to have a nap. I can bore my assistant coaches to tears, believe me. So anyway, and Mary, Tracy's mother, and Gina's mom, Shirley, they show up and they just chew these two out. How dare you come in on Coach Steinmeier, he's breaking down film. You got a half bottle of Jack Daniels. Well, now, number one, I wasn't going to drink that night. Not that I wasn't tempted, but so anyway, we have a big lead on Bethany, and we lose it, and we get beat. And we get beat. Miss the last second three, and we get beat. And as a coach, I should have taken the blame. I made some mistakes at the end of the game. I should have taken the blame. Thank goodness for Charlie and Bob. They took all the blame for that loss. If it hadn't have been for that half bottle of Jack Daniels, which I said, oh, that was tasty. Anyway, now, could the rest of the team, just from that first Final Four team, could you please stand up now? Okay, I want to, and I'll just stay standing while I talk about this first team. Some of you will be up for all three, and you know, but just a couple memories I have from that team. One was, I'll never forget a road trip to Colorado where my two captains got mad at each other. And Mari was our scorer, and Tracy hardly ever shot. Really made me mad. And one time I chewed her out at halftime, and my wife stopped me and said, "Why do you treat Tracy so bad?" I said, "Well, she's supposed to shoot the damn thing." Well, anyway, they got mad because Tracy's job was on the rebound just to sprint down court. Well, everybody's job was, but Tracy sprinted a little harder than everybody else, and she wasn't getting the ball. And the point guard was in charge of getting her the ball. Her best friend, fellow captain, was Mari. And so anyway, after this was after a win. We get beat the first night by Metro State, come back the second night, and I think on a Pam Sorensen layup, won the second game, kind of last second layup, beat Regis. And then we're down, and I know, and after that game, Mari comes charging up to me and says, Stein, Tracy's mad at me and she won't tell me what it is. And so I, Tracy never gets mad. So I find Tracy, and I go, "Tracy, what's up?" She says, "I'm not talking." Well, in that game, neither one of them shot the ball. The only reason I haven't laid into them by now is because Pam got them off the hook. So we go to Denver and play DU, and we're down 16 at half, and neither one of them have taken a shot. Not a shot, and we're down 16. At halftime, we have 15-minute halftime. I took 13 minutes and yelled at only those two. And I said, if you pass the ball anytime this second half, I'm sitting you. And believe me, they didn't pass the ball. But anyway, I'll never forget that. That was the last time they stayed mad at each other. The first round of the national tournament, we played a team from Maine that was just pathetic. And Mari, they were, I mean, they're awful. Well, Mari liked to play 2 minutes, come out of the game, and then come back in. She said she always got her second win, so I always took her out after the first 2 minutes. And that's the way she wanted it. Except this time, at the 2-minute mark, she picked up her second foul. So in goes Missy Knippelmeyer. Is Missy here? Okay, well, anyway, by the time, so I was going to wait till the 10-minute mark to bring Mari back in. Well, by that time, we're up 25. So, you know, you might not have a starting job the next night. But no. I remember that the second round game we had been to several national tournaments. We'd won several first-round games. We never got over the hump on the second round. We played Georgetown out of Kentucky, and it was just a brutal game. And one of the officials was from Nebraska. Matter of fact, John Moody is the reason. John Moody was one of the coaches. Where is John? Yeah, John, you want to stand up a second? And I had forgotten this, but John told me today that this official, Miller, I needed an assistant coach and had pointed out John. So anyway, the rumor was that we won the game because we had a Nebraska official, and I had hugged the official after the game, which I don't hug officials. I'm not like Coach Erickson, but I don't hug them. So anyway, we win that game in a close game. We get to the Elite Eight. We have St. Ambrose. And what's unique about St. Ambrose is their coach is Robin Becker, who we had played the first national tournament. She had been on the St. Ambrose team. Well, Robin Becker is now Robin Pingington, and she's the coach at Missouri. And a close game at half, but we won a really pretty easy. They had a team. Their post player had gotten hurt, so. And you know the coolest thing about making the Final Four, in my opinion? The coolest thing is you get your school name on T-shirts. God, I like that. That was fun. So anyway, we have to play Huron the next night. And I know I'm taking too long, guys, so you got to bear with me. You track guys, you're not going to like this at all, but hey, suck it up, track guys. What can I say? You know. And by the way, I want to say something, Curtis. You know, your wife told you about not wearing jeans? She's got on jeans tonight. What's that all about? Yeah. Just thought I'd point that out. You know? So anyway, we go to the Final Four game, and we're playing Huron. They had put a ton of money in their athletic program back then, and we got down 15 points in 9 minutes to go, and Mari then brought us back, and she scored 15 in the next 17 points and had an assist to Jess Wilson back there for the other two, and we tied it up with 15 seconds to go, and to this day, this one, I have nightmares about this. We knew the exact play they were going to run because they'd run it the day before. We stopped it absolutely cold. They kicked it out to their post player behind the three-point line. She took one dribble, hit the rim, hit the backboard, fell through, and we're losers. And to this day, I have nightmares. Anyway, guys, if you then graduated, and you two guys sit down, I've had enough of you two. Would Jess Wilson and Missy Davis please come up? I mean, not Missy Davis, of course, and not Jess Wilson, of course, but by the way, I'm telling you, Missy Davis did all right because she married, and you guys won't know this, but she married Joe Rudy's son. Joe Rudy, it was my hero playing for the Oakland A's back in the 60s and 70s. God. And I can't even get a signed baseball card. I can't believe it. Anyway, now the two, and these two are both from Wahoo. I want to point something out with Jess's mother here. I want to point something out that she wrote me a letter once, and like after one of the first games of the season, Miss had 16 points, and Jess probably only about 10, I don't know at that point. And Jess didn't care, but her mom did. And she congratulated me on having recruited such a fine athlete from Wahoo that could now take her daughter's place, and that her daughter probably wouldn't score many points and she might not be able to see her daughter play much anymore. But congratulations, Coach Steinmeier. That wasn't the only letter the woman wrote me, but after one game, I walked up to her to talk about the letter, and she said, "I tried to grab it out of the mailbox." She's an art teacher, and she did make some very neat little plaques for every kid that had their image on it. For that, I thank you I still have mine. You made everybody's real cute. You made mine real ugly. I haven't forgotten that. This is the one that I'll never forget, and John Moody played a big role in this. We graduated, I think we graduated maybe four players, major players off that team, and so people didn't really expect a lot out of us. We had a sophomore point guard that, in Missy Knippelmeyer, I don't know, 5'4", $110 maybe. And we played, Briarcliff was undefeated and rolling. They're number 1 in the nation. And we go out there to the end of January, and they beat us by 28. And I made Missy cry twice. First, I chewed her out. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. Stand up, you guys, from the second one. Stand up, please. I made her cry. Well, I didn't make her cry. Briarcliff made her cry. The butt chew she got from me made her cry even harder. But so anyway, we turned it over about 35 times and got beat by 28 points. And John Moody very politely called me aside and said, "Stein, I think I have a better press break for you." And it was I think it was called the push and pull was what we did or something like that. But until the day I retired from coaching, I used that press break. So sometimes it's good to listen, even though it sounds like all I do is talk. Once in a while, I'll listen. And we practiced that 5 minutes every night, not thinking we could ever get back to Briarcliff. Well, first I got to tell you about our first round opponent was Benedictine. And you know how I say first round opponents are pathetic? Well, I didn't say it this time, my wife did. And she told all my players they were pathetic. And my players believed it. And back then, I believe my two starting post players were Trish Plucker and Jess Wilson. And they stunk. They were awful. If it hadn't been for Aaron Slake, we were down 16, it would have been worse. And Aaron Slake was just a freshman that didn't even know what it meant to be a national tournament. So anyway, thank goodness there was only 8 minutes. You know about this, Drew. There's only 8-minute halftimes the first couple rounds of the national tournament. Thank goodness, because I would have just lost my voice. So I look up for my wife as I'm coming out of the locker room at halftime, and she's hiding because she knows she's the cause of this. Well, we came back and beat Benedictine in overtime, and you're off the hook. My wife's off the hook. We go and we beat Sterling in overtime, and after the game, the Sterling coach came up and said, "Better you than me." I go, "What do you mean?" He says, "You got to play Briarcliff next." They're 37-0. They were forcing like 35 turnovers a game. They only had like 2 close games all year, and it wasn't us. But thanks to John Moody and the press break, and the assistant coaches screaming, "Sprint!" we stopped their fast break. We broke their press. We had a 13-point lead. I think close to halftime, and then the play that I'll never forget, a lot of coaches will pull their, and I don't know how you guys do it, but into the game, close game, you got to lead, they'll pull their players off of the foul lines in fear of fouling. Well, I always kept my kids there for this reason. We had missed 2 straight free throws, and they'd closed to within 3, 7 seconds to go, and it was all 1-on-1s back then, and if you missed the 1-on-1, they had a chance to tie it, and we missed it. But there was Missy Divis, and she got the long rebound. They fouled her. She had 2 free throws, and we won the game. And she doesn't remember a thing about it. God, I make an impression on these kids. Anyway, the next, you know, and we had played, and the amazing thing about that Briar Cliff game is we played Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 back-to-back-to-back. But we never even talked about being tired. I don't think we even talked about it. And we weren't. I remember that St. Francis that year had the same back-to-back-to-back, and they substituted like crazy and lost their game. We didn't care. We just were playing. And I'll never forget that. We played Northwest Nazarene, and what was good for us one game wasn't so good the next game because we closed to within 2. I remember Trish was having a great game. She'd score, they'd go down and hit 2 free throws. We'd score, they'd hit 2 free throws. And then they missed a free throw. But just like we had done the day before, they rebounded it. And we got beat 4, I believe. And but anyway, that was a great accomplishment by that team. And anyway, thank you guys. I think I'm right here, but I think Trish and Aaron, who were the captains? Oh, okay. Oh, or was it Jess? Were you Jess? One of the captains? That's right. Somebody said, somebody told me it was Tucker and Plucker. But anyway, well, we won't bring captains up for this. I tell you, I have a terrible memory, and I apologize for that. But the 3rd edition of the Final Four was one where we just we didn't have a real went into postseason not real excited. But we won. I don't even know who we beat in the first round, but everybody got upset. Black Hill State got upset, so we had to play Taylor out of Indiana and beat Taylor out of Indiana. I remember their point guard couldn't go left, and you guys were great. I think Jess had a big one. Oh, by the way, that team, stand up now, will you? That third one. I think I probably had Jess on the point guard and just over there, Tucker. And absolutely, the kid couldn't go left, and we beat them pretty easy. Well, I had gone way back in the files and dug out some forms and stuff, and I found a girl by the name of Adrienne Turner from Chicago. And she was a freshman point guard. Her dad scared the hell out of me because he was a cop and stopped me, and it was like he was going to put me in cuffs. But anyway, I appreciate that. But Adrienne came in, and we played on Wednesday so Miss could play, and Adrienne backed her up, and then Miss could play on Friday, but then on Saturday, Miss couldn't play. So Adrienne had to step in, and here's this poor freshman that hasn't really had a major role all year, and she had the game of her life. I think he had 15 points maybe, but the one thing that stands out, I had a volleyball double that year by the name of Andrea Gall. Hi, Andrea. And I'll never forget, at halftime, funny things happen that spur you on to things. Well, we were down 4 points, just playing terrible to Central Methodist. And I don't know who it was. Somebody hit a 3. And Trish Plucker got fouled under the bucket, I think. So we hit the 3, we hit both free throws, and we go in at halftime up 1 instead of down 4. So I go in the locker room, and sometimes and you guys know this, Drew, Jared, you know this, sometimes at halftime, you forget notes, forget the blackboard, you just do it. So I got out a dollar bill, and I handed it to Andrea Gall. And she had no clue what I was after, and I said, here, I just got this from the Central Methodist coach that he gave us a gift. And I think she kept that dollar, too. And anyway, we went on to win that game and got into the Final Four again. And jeez, we played a team by the name of Walsh. Walsh they had gone home for spring break thinking they wouldn't qualify. They were the lowest seed. They had upset 3 teams, and now we played them. They didn't have a kid over 5'10". We're going to kill these guys. But here's where coaching came in. The last 2 years, I had made them rest on Sunday and just let them sleep in. I figured but we played great on Mondays, and I forgot that. Even though we got beat, we played great. So I got them up. We did a clinic. We went to the mall. We did a movie. And we came out so flat. And we got beat by 13. And That team went on to win the national championship. And just as a small world, the coach's name was Carl Semesco. He was a junior high boys coach a year before. First year as a college coach. Carl is now, and you know this, Jared, because I think you know Carl a little bit. He's now at Florida Gulf Coast. He went to Florida Gulf Coast when it was an NAIA team. He actually got him in the championship game one year. Well, anyway, when they were going Division I, he didn't think he could win, so he tried to get another job, but none of them paid well enough. Carl stayed there. They're Division I, and this year they made the NCAA tournament. They beat Robin Becker's team, or Robin Pigington's team, which is who we beat in the Elite Eight. They beat Missouri first round of the national tournament. So it kind of goes around, comes around. And so Carl Semesco, at least we didn't get beat by a horrible coach. I remember one of their kids hit 5 threes against us, and she only had 9 for the whole season. So anyway, guys, you can have a seat. I have taken long enough. You guys you have sat there long enough, except for, of course, that one guy that got up and went out. Yeah, there you go. He really is a Missy's husband, I promise you. But I do want to say one thing. Each team I've ever had at Doane is unique in themselves, and every team I've had at Doane has been very special. And a lot of them are here tonight, a lot of them aren't. I hope more teams make the Hall of Fame eventually. I hope more players make the Hall of Fame eventually. But my uncle was Gene Ellis, a Doane graduate. He coached here, and he always told me one thing. He said, just remember, when you go out and find a coaching job, he said, you remember, players make coaches, coaches don't make players. And Doane College proved that right. Thank you.
Three special teams for sure, and it was great to, that was back in the day. We played in the field house and we had those portable chairs. You know, because the main set of bleachers was about 200 yards north of the gym floor. I'm exaggerating just a little bit. But it was great to, I was in admissions then, and we had dibs, talked to my colleagues in the afternoons and said, you know, who's going to get to the field house first? Save those front chairs. And we had 2 or 3 rows of chairs, and it was those were great times, and I certainly enjoyed them, and very special teams, no doubt.